Fucker.
How the hell are you?
Dude, I'd be doing a lot better if we could finally get disclosure.
Yeah, I mean, it's weighing heavy on my mind these days. Like, are the fucking aliens here or not, dude?
With everything that's going on, like, I feel like I've always been pretty tuned in to the whole UFO, UAP, alien zeitgeist. I've been tapped into it for a long time. In these past, like, 2 months or so, feels like we've had more than ever.
Yeah, we're just fucking edging at this point.
Oh, we're edging hard. Edging so hard. I'm edging.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. Like, it's been... Maybe it's just because it's been so forefront, like, on social media platforms and, like, you know, in the government hearings and shit like that, congressional hearings, and... But it seems like there's a lot more shit that's being talked about in a regular spaces, like...
Yeah, it's being covered in a serious light, more so now than ever.
Yeah.
And I think the social media thing helped really propel Stephen Greer's, in 72 hours, which he didn't do a fucking thing.
He just started a podcast.
Yeah, he started a podcast, but simultaneously you had Jake Barber, is that his name? I wrote it down. Yeah, Jake Barber come out and tell his story. Did you listen to that?
No.
So he was this kind of SF operator. I can't remember his exact title, but he was military intelligence essentially, and he like had to go get his helicopter training and everything so he could maintain his cover as like an intelligence operator. And then he was flying the helicopter that picked up the egg-shaped UFO or UAP. And he talked about his experience of how he felt and what he experienced when he picked it up and transported it. And he basically said whatever was inside the craft, he connected to it on a very emotional level. And he said he felt an exuberance of love, especially like a maternal love. Like he felt like it was being connected to his mother in a way. And then he had some physical effects that he ended up having later on, almost radiological effects. But yeah, he told this great story, and when that came out, because it was so tied to the Stephen Greer 72-hour thing, at first I paid it no attention. And then just like last night, I was like, you know what, I'm going to listen to this for a little bit and see if I'm into it. I ended up listening to the whole thing. It was like 3 hours. But going forward from that, he's essentially left the military and gone private, and he's working in this project Star Watcher, where he's essentially kind of creating a company to where it'll be a private third company that would do crash retrievals for the government. But they also get to study and research and everything that has to do with these crafts. And there's so many people involved in it. And I was so like enthralled with this story. And then the guy asks him about Stephen Greer, and he's like, yeah, Stephen Greer's legit, and he has all this knowledge and all, you know, he helped me get here and blah, blah, blah. And I went, fuck. Just as I was losing all faith in Stephen Greer, this guy comes out with this super cool story and then cites Stephen Greer as a reference point.
Pulls you right back in.
God damn it. He's like an ex-girlfriend that's toxic.
Yeah.
But you keep going back to because she gives great head.
Yeah. Haven't had any of those, but yeah. Yeah, I've been listening to Stephen Greer's, like, you know, waiting for this huge disclosure that he's making, and I've watched a few of his podcast episodes and been totally let down by them because he's just like, dude, where's this huge disclosure that all you're doing is pointing us to your website? I don't want to go fucking look. Just tell us what the fucking huge deal is that you know about. Like, So I've been kind of on the same wavelength as you, like kind of losing faith in Stephen Greer, or losing my patience, I guess, with Stephen Greer's fucking timelines. But yeah, I haven't even seen that guy's story or anything, but that would be really cool. Whether the government's going to allow that or not, who knows?
Well, that was a big part of the discussion, and I can't recall enough of the information offhand to be able to speak on a lot of it, but there is some. They're working on a way to be able to just retrieve these craft and study them and then share that information, essentially.
All they have to do is have the people just call them first. Don't call the fucking cops.
Yeah. Just call these guys and they'll come fucking pick it up.
Yeah.
Like, have you watched the egg video?
No. Well, I've seen clips of it.
So if you've seen a clip of it, you've seen the whole thing. There's not a whole lot to it. The first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know. But then I watched it a couple more times, and you could see physics behind it, like the way it moves, and then when it's set down, the way it keeps trying to move away from the cable, and whatever it is an object of significant weight. So I'll give them that. I've seen a lot of people try to debunk it, but then I've seen experts come on and be like, I was a heavy lift, helicopter pilot or whatever, and this is what's right about it. So I think it's pretty legitimate. But that was the one that he was in on, one of them. But he talks about a lot of other cool shit too, like trying to retrieve these hard drives. And there was, I think, 5 or 6 of them, and they only retrieved 2 of them that had all this data on UAPs, and it's a good listen. You should check it out. Did you hear what Trump said about disclosure fairly recently?
No.
Where
Maybe.
his son Don Jr. was doing an interview with him, and he's asking him, like, what about the aliens? Like, when you get into office, are you just going to disclose aliens and whatever? And he's like, I'm thinking about it. What I will tell you is that Roswell is a very interesting place, and a lot of people there really still want to know the truth, and they kind of deserve to know. And it's like, why did he specifically state Roswell?
Yeah.
And then recently, Lou Elizondo was on, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but they were asking him about it, and he's like, yes, what happened at Roswell is exactly what you've heard. An alien spacecraft crash landed there, and the whole story's true. He's not trying to Rick Doty us.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw that Trump was like doing a bunch of stuff, signing a bunch of shit, and like some of the stuff that was on his desk to be signed or looked over was like the assassination of JFK and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, like for these things to be put out for the public to look at. But I didn't see that one specifically about the aliens, which is, I mean, if he's really going to do it, fucking everybody already knows it. Like, just, especially if you're going to try to push Space Force as much as you want to push it, like, put it out there that there are aliens out there, and some of them probably don't have the best intentions for us, or
100%.
I see certain groups having an issue with that, like not believing it, but like I think that for the most part, people have accepted that there are alien life forms in the universe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, probability-wise, the idea that we're totally alone in the universe is just irresponsible.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The disclosure on the other things, I think, is super fucking cool. But I wonder what prompted that. Because when we talk about disclosure, it doesn't necessarily mean just UAPs, but that's the number one topic with it.
Yeah.
But these things like JFK, MLK, RFK, Senior, and all those, like, these are mysteries that have not been solved in 50 years.
Yeah.
Well, how come we have not talked about it?
That's a good point. So I was watching a documentary last night. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's kind of talking about like disclosure and why it's taking so long and what the issues are with it. And they're citing like all these different, and it was mainly about USOs and those underwater crafts. And one of the beliefs on that documentary was like there was a naval admiral who was like, he was the chief oceanographer for the Navy.
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
But he was like talking about how they've seen all these things, they know that they're real, and he can't really talk about them because it's classified. And the reason why they don't want to discuss it is because these things have been here and are a different species that have lived here on this planet for longer than we have. But they just live in the oceans. And so to be like thrust into this world of like us being the dominant species on this planet, to all of a sudden being like, okay, we're not the dominant species, and there's a species that is much more advanced than we are, and they've been here for a lot longer. You know, taking that information in is going to be a problem for a lot of people.
I think it will be, but maybe it's just me being selfish, where I go, that's their fucking problem. Yeah, when you think about it, there's three big questions that we as humans want answers to. One, is there a God? Two, what happens after you die? Three, are we alone in the universe? Everything else is a different subsect of that.
Yeah.
And so I think if you could answer just one of those questions by telling us, are we alone in the universe, and not making it a yes or no question. Because I could say, you know, are we alone in the universe? And somebody could be like, no, and then leave it at that. I'd be super disappointed.
Yeah.
But actually explaining some of it, I get not wanting to share everything. I don't think we're prepared for that. But I think we're prepared enough to say, like if they were to say, yes, there are non-human intelligences on this planet. Yes, they are in the ocean, or they visit, or there's multiple species. Like, you could start a slow disclosure, because I just don't think us as a society are ready for
full disclosure.
Yeah, for aliens on the White House lawn. I don't think we could do it.
Yeah. I agree. I think that going slowly should be kind of part of the plan. But like you have to start at some point, like doing it for real. So you have to start disclosing information in a real setting with real people who are in the positions that have the authority to talk about it, like so that everybody knows that it's real. But you have to start somewhere, and I think now is a good time, because in my mind it's like people are ready for it, or people are open enough to the possibility or to the idea of it at this point in time in our society.
I think so too, and I think too many people fall back on the excuse of religion, like, oh, it would just crumble religion. I don't think it would. I think if you disclosed that aliens were real and suddenly people steered away from religion, it's because they were already leaning in that direction. People who are devout, religious, you know, let's just say Catholics, for example, you know, they're still going to be Catholic. They're just going to say, oh, that's another one of God's creation. Like, they'll justify it for themselves.
I think, from my understanding, that's kind of the belief of most Christian faiths, is that that God created this world as he has many other worlds. Like, I don't know, like, seems like if he was going to create another world, he wouldn't just make a fucking planet and be like, okay, next.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's going to do the same shit.
I have infinite power, but I'm going to only create one intelligent species, and that's it.
I'm going to make these, and then I'm going to make giant lizards. Look what they're doing now.
I'm going to make this one with moth people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I would play around with it. I mean,
why not? Yeah, so this documentary that I was watching, they were citing all these different like cases that I haven't heard about. You know, a lot of stuff in like Canada and Russia and Italy, like post World War II type shit. And there was one case specifically up in Canada that was like, there was this fishing village that, you know, they saw a craft come down and it was an orb, looked like an orb, and it like went down into the water, so they called the Navy there, and so they came over there to see what was going on. They said that a ship had crash landed into the water, and it wasn't very deep. It was like maybe 100-foot deep water where they were at, and so they sent some Navy divers to go down there and check out what was going on. Because they didn't know what it was. They just said a craft crash there, and so they didn't know if it was an airplane or. So they sent this team of divers down to go check it out, and the divers went down there and they said that they saw a disc down there, and they said they were only about 50 feet away, so they could see it pretty clearly, and it was like being lit up. It looked like somebody was welding underground under the water, and so as they got closer, they saw like beings that were like going around the ship doing work on the ship underwater, and they specifically said they were non-human beings that were working on this craft, and it was like a Navy document that they put it in this document and said that they had saw what they had seen. But that Navy oceanographer guy who also, like, after he retired from the Navy, went and worked for NOAA, which is like a big oceanography study group that they study like deep ocean shit. But he said they have like multiple accounts of just being they're doing their testing, and, you know, they've got like probes in the water, undersea remote vehicles, kind of like checking the temperature and the sea life and shit, doing what they do. And there was multiple times where they would just get blasted past by like an object that was moving at like 800 miles an hour underwater, just go right past them.
It's especially crazy when some of the objects they described were like the size of a football field.
Yeah.
Just zipping.
So yeah, 800 miles an hour underwater is astronomical in our... Like, most submarines, I think, travel at about 40 miles an hour underneath the water.
Yeah, they're not fucking fast at all.
And that's because that's what the steel is rated for, to be able to go that fast under that amount of pressure.
Yeah.
To withstand the water. It's like 8-inch thick steel that, like, will crumble if you go and try to go any faster.
Well, I think that's the coolest thing about the transmedium stuff, is how they go through different forms of different mediums, essentially. Like when they go in and out of water, there's no splash. When they come out, they're not wet. Or even in Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, I think it's in season 4, where you see some object flies right into the mesa and then flies out of the other side of the mesa at a lower point. And you can see it, you can watch it happen. I know, because they replayed the clip like 97 times. But yeah, how do you just fly through land?
Yeah.
You know, how are they able to navigate through open space where they can just make a directional turn and zip off at 13,000 miles an hour or whatever? And some of these crafts have been clocked at speeds that we can barely comprehend.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to it, and I think a lot more of that needs to be shared. I do understand with disclosure, like national security, or even to a degree like property retention, stuff like that. But yeah, you have to just start telling us things. And I really think the starting point should be the bigger controversies within UFOs within our kind of recent lifetime. Like, start with Roswell. Tell us what happened there. Or Betty and Barney Hill, which I kind of think they're full of shit just a little bit, but tell us the truth.
Did you watch that whole docu-series on Netflix about them, or Hulu, that just came out?
I didn't, but I've heard enough of their story to say there's a lot of holes in it.
Yeah.
Or Virginia. tell us a story about that one.
Yeah, I mean, even though it was in Brazil, like, you guys apparently or reportedly went and collected the craft, and you guys have the information about it. Like,
And the bodies.
like, most of the people that are into this shit, like, know these stories and like, know the facts, air quotations, that we consider to be, like, factual evidence, like, that might be surprising to people who are, like, not into researching or looking into this shit. But, like, it seems like there's a growing majority of people who are kind of looking into it and kind of finding out for themselves, like we are, or have been for years now. Like, it seems like that it used to be like you talk to people and like, oh yeah, I've seen like ancient aliens and stuff like that. But now it's like you talk to people and they have a lot more knowledge or a lot more
There's much more depth to it.
yeah.
Well, and even like, you know, like we talked about with TikTok and the way that information just disseminates. Or even take into account in 2020 when the New York Post said, you know, the government admits we have off-world craft. Nobody batted an eye. So you could literally come out and be like, yeah, we have alien biologics, or non-human biologics in our possession. People would just be like, oh, that's cool. Anyway, toilet paper is available again.
Anyways, eggs are $18 a fucking dozen.
Fuck, dude, eggs are so expensive.
Yeah, I saw somebody was posting about it on Facebook. And they were talking about how Trump is supposed to fix. Why is eggs $18 a dozen? I thought Trump was supposed to fix all this shit. And it's like, you know, the avian flu is a thing that's going on right now, and is like wiping out a lot of the chickens, and chickens can't lay eggs if they're fucking dead.
Well, and it's also whatever's on the shelf becomes a product of supply and demand. So if it's there, it's already been processed and checked and everything. So it's the demand is high, but the supply is low.
Which is going to drive prices.
We're going to price gouge. That's just the way that works.
Kind of the way things fucking go for everything. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe it's just going to take another. Maybe COVID 2.0 is going to sweep through, then they'll fucking put out some more information. I don't know.
God, please don't.
Yeah.
I can't do another COVID.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, the ramifications are? Like, how would we be negatively impacted?
By disclosure?
Yeah.
Like, you mean like full disclosure?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I would think that like a lot of people that are like super deep into religion might have like a negative epiphany about life and death, but if they're the good people that they claim to be, it's not going to be like it's not going to be mass hysteria. They're just going to be like, what else can we do? Okay, what does that change on a day-to-day basis? Like, okay, knowledge that aliens are real, I have that now. Well, I got to stop and get gas. Fuck.
Yeah. I think you would have a bit of a mass panic, but it would be extremely short-lived.
Yeah.
It would be like the day 9/11 happened, and I remember I got out of school, every gas station has a line fucking a mile long of people trying to get gas. Prices gouged up like $3. You're going to see some stuff like that, and then it's just going to stop.
Yeah.
And I think especially if the government braced for impact beforehand, was like, okay, let's stock up on inelastic goods that we can give out to people or help to restock stores, things like that. Because we all saw what it was like with COVID and toilet paper, right? Or
which is the dumbest thing.
Which is so dumb. Or hand sanitizer, or
I'm gonna die if I don't wipe my ass.
Just take a shower. I mean,
soap is still the same price.
Soap did not change. But yeah, just stocking up on items that they can maybe predict would go crazy. Guns and ammo, things like that. But yeah, just brace for impact and then put it out in a meaningful way of like, let's say the president was going to disclose, but he was going to have an alien there to do it, like in the Oval Office. Preface the whole thing by saying, look, don't panic. We're going to give you some information. There's nothing to be scared of. And then sit down and have a conversation with that alien or whatever it is you're going to do.
Take a second to get your pearls in your hand so you don't have to brace and clutch your pearls.
Get your Steven Seagal blankie.
Get your Steven Seagal safety blanket. We should sell that. We should start open up a store, a Steven Seagal safety blanket.
And it's just like a small blanket, but it has his stupid face on it.
Yeah, I don't think that... Because what would that change on a day-to-day basis? Like, unless they're like, okay, aliens are real and they're coming here in mass tomorrow. Then that might create a huge fucking panic. Like, but it's like, aliens are real, we know they exist, and this is what we have, the information that we have so far.
This is what we can give out safely.
Unless they're like, yeah, they've been harvesting people for adrenochrome, and yes, you're probably going to get picked up within the next 6 months.
Yeah, and they're going to put stuff in your butt.
You just start fucking plugging to tomorrow, just to, get some enjoyment out of what's going to happen to you.
See, if you cram your butt full of tinfoil, they'll leave you alone. Tinfoil will just fly off the shelf.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how we need to revive companies with dying products.
Cram it in your butt and the aliens won't get you.
Yeah.
What can we eat? Low cost that we can buy a lot of.
Oh, no, I got a better idea. Trump's got to go on TV tomorrow and be like, if you listen to Dave-inci's code on Spotify, you'll be safe.
No probes.
No probes. Nothing will go in your butt. I promise. I promise.
You're going to love it.
And I got to tell you, these aliens, they're great people. All voted for me, by the way.
Beautiful people, these aliens.
No, I think we just created a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get probed, listen to this show.
I think that's how you have to, maybe that's how you have to like sell disclosure to the government is by like creating something that they could sell with it, like vaccines. We have to create a vaccine to not get probed.
It's saline no matter what.
Yeah.
It's just salt water.
But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't affect me if they came out and said that aliens are real.
I think it would be great.
Yeah.
I think for humanity...
We just do a fucking told you so episode.
It would just be us saying, I told you so on repeat.
Yeah, remember when we told you that fucking aliens are real? Told you.
Yeah, do you remember that one time we were talking about Dulce, New Mexico? Yeah, fucking told you.
Remember that one time we were talking about Area 52? Yeah, I told you so.
Oh, dude, we'd go on and on. It'd be great. Like, that would be the whole episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... I do think disclosure has actually been happening pretty slowly.
Yeah.
It's just taken a very long time.
Yeah, I think now's the time that we can just up the ante, dude. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I want to see an alien so bad.
I want to see an alien so bad. I don't know about in person, like putting shit in my butt, but like pretty bad.
Wait, have you never had an alien put stuff in your butt?
Not an alien.
I don't know. I've been to the border of Mexico. And
Where did it touch you? Grab your safety blanket. We can have Steven Seagal from Swamp Cops, star of Swamp Cops.
Can you imagine aliens do land on the White House lawn? Steven Seagal's like, I wish I was there so I could kick their fucking ass.
We talked about it, fucking Steven Seagal versus Predator.
Only the Russian version.
Russian.
I can't do a Russian accent, so
Me neither.
I'm shorthanded on that one. I'll work on it.
Fucking Yeg was here to fucking be Vladimir Putin.
I'm fucking offended by that, okay?
Fucking Ukrainian assholes.
I could just imagine the look on his face if you were like, "Hey, do a Putin impersonation." Oh my god.
Yeah. But yeah, fuck, what was that? It was like USOs and Disclosure. It's pretty new on Amazon Prime.
I'll take a look. Because it's like every time something comes out on any one of the streaming services that has anything to do with that, I'm just like,
yeah,
let me have it.
Yeah. And I was really like pleasantly surprised that they didn't go over a bunch of the old shit that everybody talks about. Like, there was quite a few things that I hadn't seen before. Yeah, and they talked to one guy that was like, he's gotten these videos from Homeland Security that they were recording this, looks like a rubber ducky. I don't know if you've seen the rubber ducky videos.
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it.
But it's like 40 minutes long videos that he's got of the Homeland Security guys recording these objects flying near and across the border, kind of like all around the place, but they're filming them for 40 minutes straight in the air. Don't know what they are. But yeah, they talked to him, and a lot of interesting shit in there. I'll have to look it up and send you the link.
Yeah, I think one thing that would change with Disclosure is not just how we view technology and science, but how we view consciousness. And Jake Barber talks a lot about that in his special, having been connected to it in some conscious level, but also talking about it in conjunction with Stephen Greer's meditation methods and things like that, where allegedly some people have the ability that they can in some way link their stream of consciousness to a UAP to summon it. Now, Stephen Greer, again, has kind of been in some hot water about this sort of thing, because he took a bunch of people on this expedition to prove that it can be done, and he's over there like, I'm connected, and everybody who's there sees all these lights in the sky, but come to find out he had paid some aircraft pilot to throw flares out of the window of his plane. And to me, that just draws a huge shadow on him.
Yeah.
But the way they talk about communication across vast swaths of space, or the ability to control their craft with their mind, it shows that there's a lot more depth to that conversation than just saying, like, you have a conscious spirit and you have one, versus them being all connected.
Yeah.
And I think that would show us a new paradigm of reality, that like, we're not just bound to our meat spacesuit. And I think that's where a lot of people would struggle with the idea of, oh, why can't I do that? Or how come I don't have these powers or whatever? And it's like, you just don't have the ability to harness it yet.
Yeah.
But by showing you it's possible, that's the first step.
Well, also ties into the telepathy tapes that we discussed on, the telepathy tapes episode that we did. We are able to do that. We just don't know how to connect to it. And these non-speakers have been doing it for a long time now, and they could be the key to showing us how to do it. But it's definitely an eye-opening thing to say that it is a possibility, and there's a lot more to this world and consciousness that we are even able to perceive, because we're so limited by our physical reality that we're used to.
Yeah.
But just opening up the thoughts of the possibility of that being a real thing. I think that, you know, these things coming out, like the telepathy tapes, are kind of a step in the right direction. Like
100%.
the telepathy tapes, and then like a lot of focus on studies on psychedelics. And, you know, it's got to go back to psychedelics, of course.
Everything does.
But opening up these channels in your consciousness that are there, you're just unaware of them and how to access them on a higher level without the use of, you know, substances that can drop those filters that we're used to. So.
Well, I know one time I was tripping balls. Mushrooms, obviously. Psilocybin is just it's the easiest source to get in the area we live in. And I was gone. And I remember kind of being in my mind, you know, when you have like a big burp and it's just trapped in there. Anyway, but I'm kind of in my mind and like exploring, and I remember saying like, you know what would be really cool is to see aliens. And then it was almost like I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, I was underwater. And I could see this big dome. And all of these kind of branches, they look like, you know, the aquarium that has the big, weird
Look
thing.
like Stranger Things.
Yeah, it looked just like that. It was kind of like tentacles, but on the end of each barb had a little pod, and in each pod was a human. And keep in mind, I'm looking at all this from outside of the dome, so I'm looking through water and through the dome, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, and I'm trying to swim around and look, and then this tall gray pops up on the inside of the dome right in front of my face. He's like, you're not supposed to be here. And I was like, you bet, see you later. And I remember closing my eyes, and then I opened them again, and I was gone. I wasn't there anymore.
Interesting.
So, kind of makes you wonder, and I know it's like ramblings about, you know, a psychedelic experience, but it makes you question, like, what if what I saw was real?
Yeah.
You know, what if I was actually able to
transcend the physical?
Break that stream of consciousness and enter something else.
Yeah.
It's not anything different than talking about like Ingo Swann, who can, you know, astral project essentially, or remote view as they call it. It's kind of the same thing.
Well, there's a lot of people in the disclosure conversation that talk about like, yeah, disclosure is not what isn't going to be what you think. You know, aliens, it's not going to be what you think. And so like most people think aliens are like from outer space, non-human ET type shit. You know, could that be them saying it's going to be more, instead of outside but inside, like just a different realm or a different dimension or a different stream of consciousness that we're just not in tune with? That's what it sounds like to me. Like they're saying that, you know, the whole alien mystery is just a different wavelength of consciousness.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of think when I say disclosure and I throw in the caveats of like the JFK, RFK, MLK files, that's a lot of Ks. 3 Ks? KKK? Strange.
Is it?
Maybe.
It sounds strange.
But that's why I think these hard, fast disclosures that happened on day one of Trump being inaugurated may be kind of like a soft launch in a way of, well, we have these, you know, 50 and 60-year-old mysteries that need to be solved that people have been wondering about for a very long time. What if we just drop those? Let's see how they react to that.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll go for something a little bit harder. It's like,
so
here, kid, have your first beer.
Like I saw a clip of that saying that was part of the shit that was on his desk, and he was talking about it a little bit. And that's all that I've seen about it. Like, if he actually signed it and like has put it out there, nobody's talking about it. Nobody's
I've seen a little bit about it. I haven't delved real deep into it because I kind of go, I'm lazy, and somebody else is going to file a FOIA and get the information, and then they're going to process a video, and I can consume that video.
Yeah.
And it's a multifaceted thing because 1, I don't have to do it. 2, I don't have to pay for it. 3, I get to give somebody else a view on their YouTube when I watch what they say.
Yeah.
Is that responsible? Probably not, because I'm getting it secondhand. But eventually enough people are going to be saying the same thing that it's probably like, okay, this has to be what it is. And with MLK, there's so many negative things that I've heard about him over the last like 10 years that the few things I have heard, I listen to it and go, yeah, that tracks. Like he was into gay orgies and they would sexually assault women and
really
just all these horrible things about this guy.
I haven't really looked into that whole situation.
You know, I remember hearing that stuff years ago.
Really?
Yeah. And then seeing some of the documents, like I came across a couple this morning and I didn't really have time to sit down and read them, so I was just kind of like fast going through it and just pick out some keywords. But yeah, it all seems pretty legit.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit that like those things like we talked about a little bit that like I'll see in conjunction with trying to like look into something else that we're doing an episode on, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to put that on the back burner. Like, so my queue is like all these random ass shit that I saw while I was trying to look for something specific. Like, so I have like, you know, all those things in my video queue of like saved for later so that I can eventually look at them. I'm not going to. Like, I just have a queue of like 700 videos of different shit that was like, oh, that's fucking interesting. Okay, put that over here for a second. We gotta talk about fucking Steven Seagal, dude.
I regret nothing.
Neither do I. I mean, had to be said.
Reminder, Steven Seagal, huge piece of shit.
3 Bonos, dude.
3 Bonos.
3 Bonos.
3 hole.
Shit.
3 hole.
But yeah, I think there are so many people that have just a huge hard-on for disclosure right now. That
Well, I think about it in this aspect. So, you've seen Man of Steel, right?
yeah,
So there's a moment where Kal-El is learning to fly. And so he had just talked to his Russell Crowe dad, and his Russell Crowe dad's kind of giving him a speech like, you'll give humanity an ideal to strive towards. And you'll stumble and you'll fall, but one day, you know, they'll meet you in the sun. It's such a beautiful line, but I think about that in terms of the humanity we have now, where as if we saw, let's say, an alien that has ascended all of our baser human issues, like greed or sexual assaults or whatever, all the negative things that we can't seem to break the bounds of. What if we could see this creature who has gone through that in their species and has ascended, and they've become this like incredible like stepping stone for us to look towards? Like, wouldn't that be the greatest thing for humanity ever, to say you no longer have to be tied to working a job or using money or anything like that? Like, you could have a society that's driven towards creation, towards art and meaningful pursuits, and not just going to work a 9-to-5 or not just feeding into corporate greed or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be the greatest thing for humanity ever?
I think so. But it comes down to the like the question of like, is greed an inherent trait that people have? Like, you know, in an ideal situation, you would just do things because that's what the good thing to do is, but people don't normally do that. They do stuff that's going to make money because they need money to survive. Now, if we could switch the paradigm where it's like, do these things because they're beautiful and they're for the betterment of our species, how many people are going to do those things even though they're harder than going to a 9-to-5 job. And
well, I think that would be the ticket for that particular alien to explain it. Yes, you should be going for these meaningful pursuits, of art and creation and what have you. And yes, right now you have to work, but now is where you start building the system. Like, this is my society, this is how we live. And it's all of us. It's not just me and I get to create, but these other 10 dudes, they have to go to work. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And we have the means to get you there. Like, we can teach you the technology. We can teach you the mentality.
Again, it ties back into the telepathy tapes where they're talking about, like, conveying an idea telepathically where you get the whole gist of the idea by a thought. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if they just came here and taught us how to communicate in a real way telepathically, that might be the only thing they need to do. Like, you could fully understand somebody's intentions by what they're thinking as opposed to what they're saying.
Well,
in an instant.
If you could give somebody the breadth of an idea instead of just being like, hey, would you rather go to work or would you rather paint, Instead, you show them the entirety of the process where it's not about not working, it's about doing something for the betterment of your species, but these things are taken care of. You no longer have to have monetary value and blah, blah, blah. Show you the entirety of the situation with a single thought would convince you to be like, you're right, I don't have to work. I can do this instead, but this is what I have to do now to get to that point.
Right. So I was talking to my kids about this, like, so we were talking about the California fires, the fires in LA, and I was like, can you imagine if a fire came through and burned out all of our whole city? What do you think would happen? And they're like, I don't know. I would, one of them was like, I would go around and try to find tires so that we could burn them for heat. And I was like, well, everybody's going to be doing the same thing. So what you have to do is come together as a community and all work together for the betterment of the whole society. Like, you have to start working together. And it's like, that's the only way. You can't just survive, or else it's going to break down into like a post-apocalyptic, everybody's fighting for resources. If you come together, gather the resources, of course there's going to be some asshole that wants to keep all the fucking shit for themselves because they think that gains them power. But it's like, that's what humans have done throughout history. Some fucking asshole wants to hoard everything. No, it's like, you have to come together and work for the betterment of your society as a group. You have to come together and you're working. It's not like you're going to a job and working a job and coming home. You're still going to be working that whole time, but it's a different type of work. You're working together, manual labor, doing shit that needs to be done because nobody else is going to do it.
That's really profound. I didn't actually think of that particular answer, and that's really sharp, because if you went to your neighbor and was like, hey, look, we all got to stay warm, we all got to be fed, we all need water. How about you guys go gather all the firewood, we're going to go gather food, and then these guys are going to go get water. We'll meet back here and share resources.
Yeah.
You would last so much longer and be so much happier versus like the average person who's going to go to their neighbor and try to kill their neighbor to take their canned goods out of their pantry, which there are people that are like that, but that's their nature, and they'll either see the error of their ways and change, or they're going to get killed.
Yeah. Well, that whole mentality, especially if it's on a worldwide, and I was like, of course, like, if something happened in our little town, we can go to Salt Lake and get our shit there, or just go to somebody else's house that lives there and just stay with them until our shit is back together. Like, yeah. But if it's like a worldwide thing, then everybody's going to be in the same situation, and like doing that whole thing where you're trying to survive on your own it's only going to last for a certain amount of time until you need fucking other people to help you.
100%. And then you can even inject the whole art and creation argument into it. Like, I was listening to this story the other day about Germans fighting in the trenches, and there was one German soldier. He was particularly good at singing, so maybe he was Russian. No, he was Russian. Sorry, but yeah, he was a really great singer, and he would sing to all the troops at night, and it would keep morale up. And so it got to the point where people had become so accustomed to that morale that they would give him the extra rations of tea or food to keep him healthy so he could keep singing. And then there was an attack into their bunker, and they would line up and try to protect the singer above everybody else. Like, they straight up said, fuck the colonel, this guy's who's important. And that just shows that when everything you have is like down to the bottom level where you have to scrape and scrounge for everything, that beauty, that art, that creation is going to become so much more important, because you don't have a vast array. You don't have Spotify anymore that you can just open up and listen to 10 billion songs at the touch of your fingertips. Mm-hmm. Now you only have this one guy who's a good musician. Now he's an asset, even though he's not providing anything that's mandatory for your survival. He's providing something else that's not for your survival, it's for your betterment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think 100% right, you know. In that situation, we all have to come together, and it's the same with disclosure, where when the people are going to panic, everybody else needs to just be still.
Yeah.
Just let the panic ride down, and then we can be, you know, together as humanity and say, there's nothing to fear. If they've been here for 100,000 years and they haven't wiped us out yet, why would they do it today?
Yeah.
You know.
That's one thing that I always like, because I used to have like panic attacks and like worry about what shit is happening when I was younger. And it was like stupid shit, like, but I would have to calm myself, like, you're still alive, nothing's happened, everybody's okay, like, what you're worrying about doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter. Like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm calmed down. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But, it's, you know, people have to come to that realization through the help of other people being calm and showing that you don't have to fucking panic about dumb shit like aliens are real. Ah, fuck! I'm hungry. I need a sandwich.
Somebody's like, aliens are real. You're like, are they down to fuck, or
do we have cheese? We want a grilled cheese.
Aliens are real. Are they over their ex? Because I might be interested.
Were they like on like Tinder or Grindr, or what app were we going to?
What kind of beer do they like? Like we got to figure this shit out. These are the actual important questions.
Yeah. I've never gone to a party like having ill intentions and like somebody offers you a beer and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they got their own space beer, dude.
I'd try it.
As long as they tell me I can drink it, like.
They bring it down. It's one of those nasty IPAs. You know, one of those where you're just like, God, that's good.
This is fucking space IPA, space nosh.
Space nosh. Non-hazy.
Non-hazy IPA.
This is Nebula nosh.
Intergalactic IPA. I'm good, dude.
What if disclosure happens and we find out everything on Rick and Morty was real?
Rick and Morty, as fucking hilarious as it is, like, I think they have the best model for fucking the meta, or the, what is it, the
multiverse?
Multiverse, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the best model.
That show is so intelligent.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this because it makes me feel kind of arrogant, but like, I tend to know my way around science words, but every once in a while I'm like, fuck, I gotta Google that one. But the way that Rick can just describe something so offhandedly, but be 100% accurate, you're like, God damn, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good writing.
It is. It's fucking... So, you have to ask, like, is it art imitating real life, or is it just fucking total bullshit they're making up?
Well, that's that's the question I've had for a long time with movies about aliens, where it's always kind of speculated like that was the beginning of disclosure, especially with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is an extremely one-of-a-kind movie, to the point where you have J. Allen Hynek in the fucking movie, or the people from Project Blue Book in the movie, who were there as technical advisors. Why would you put technical advisors working with a Hollywood production movie about aliens? Why would they be so hands-on?
Yeah.
If not for the fact to show, like, this is real, but we're going to give it to you in the most palatable way that we can at the moment. Because when you watch the movie and you look at so many things, like when the spacecraft flies past Richard Dreyfuss's face, and then later on he's in the bathroom and he realizes half of his face is sunburnt and the other half isn't. Kind of like a radiological effect that so many people have reported. Or the fact that they were benevolent, but some of their technologies had adverse effects to us, and it wasn't like we were trying to hurt you, it just happened. Or even with the case of like Travis Walton, where he was investigating this UFO thing and a beam comes down and it accidentally hurt him, so they brought him on board to fix him. Where maybe those things aren't so much fiction as we believe, and more of like that beginning of disclosure, where Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out in the 70s, where we're kind of over the Vietnam War, we're past a lot of the civil rights stuff, we're kind of moving into a new era. It really is kind of genius in hindsight that if you were going to introduce that idea, to do it then.
Yeah, maybe it is like the people who have the knowledge, or the information to disclose, are waiting until we're at a point where we can technologically understand what they're saying. So like if you released disclosure, you came out with disclosure in like the 1900s, people would think that it's fucking
black magic
or some shit. So they're slowly advancing, or quickly advancing. So if you look in the last 100 years, technology is advanced at an sort of like
exponential.
In the last 100 years, maybe that's part of it. Maybe they're getting us caught up to the point where we can understand nuclear fusion and rockets and shit like that. So it's just not like fucking magic to us. You can't just explain 2 + 2 to a toddler because they don't even speak the language. Like, we have to learn the language before we can understand what's being said.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder how much of it is actually a causality within nature. You think about, so the crash landed in Roswell, and then some of the stuff is sent off to nearby colleges to be studied, and one of those colleges, one of the people who studied this tech comes up with the resistor, or other pieces of tech. And some of that's confirmed and some of it's not, but how much of it is they're intentionally feeding us that technology at a point where we can find parts of it palatable, where we can go, okay, Bob Lazar worked on element 115 in 1988, but element 115 wasn't actually discovered until 2004 or 8, whichever it was. But it was like how much of it is a causal loop of, we have to introduce this so that you understand it at this point, and you can refine it at this point to create the technology we have to be able to send it back here. And it boggles my tiny little mind. But what if that's it, Because you always have to placate the idea that maybe they are us from the future, and that's why they're so invested in us.
Right. And that's something that I've, talked about before, is like, is it just us coming from the future showing us the way to get there? And even like, in their future reality, speeding things along for them also, or changing them for them.
Or at least protecting their own, timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, you think about, these UAPs, they fly over these nuclear silos, and they'll shut down a specific nuclear weapon within a silo. Even though there's 20 of them, they'll pick one and shut that one off.
Yeah.
And you have to question, why was it just that one? Maybe in their timeline, that one was going to be launched, but they had to stop it in order to stop, an apocalypse or whatever, or a nuclear war. So they just show up, kill that one, and then fuck right off.
Yeah.
Because that's part of their history that they have to do that.
Yeah, like killing Sarah Connor.
But they didn't.
They didn't. They couldn't.
They killed John Connor.
It was inevitable.
I am inevitable.
Oh yeah, it's all mind twisting to try to think about it, but there have been reports of, people saying that some of these crafts, it seems like they were just dropped off for us to find and study so that we could make advances in technology or try to understand what the fuck is going on with these ships or UAPs or whatever they are. So it does seem like they are just dropping breadcrumbs that'll lead us to where they want us to go.
100%. And even to double down on that, where you talk about Jake Barber's case, where he felt his consciousness essentially intertwined with whatever was in the craft that he was towing. But he talks about his history, being a student where he was in the GATE program and all these other factors that played into it. He had a sense of being an empath or whatever. They're specifically choosing people that they're kind of exposing themselves to in order to get that disclosure coming, in order to start kind of pre-gaming humanity for what's coming.
I wonder if the aliens know that Steven Seagal is an empath.
They're like, no, he's Russian. We don't want him.
No, yeah, but that, even him saying that, kind of, you have to think that, that if he's able to connect to this thing, in his consciousness, is that an ability that we all have? It probably is, and they probably know that, and using something like a unmanned ship or something like that to show us that it's a possibility and we are capable of doing it, smart.
I agree. I also think that we all essentially have the same piece of thinking meat between our ears, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same piece of gear. It's how you use it that can make the difference between you having empathy or not having empathy versus you being able to telepathically communicate versus just verbally communicate. I think the ability that you have in your mind is probably detectable in some way, shape, or form. And if that's how whatever they are communicate across vast distances and how they control their technology, then they can probably easily tell.
Yeah.
And when you say some of these people believe that, the ship was just dropped here and it almost seems like a gift, and then they send in knowing that the crash retrieval team is going to have somebody like Jake Barber who we want to communicate with because he has this ability. It's like a predetermination almost.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it happen.
They knew that he was going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't really put into a scope until now, and now my brain's going a million miles a second.
Very interesting, very thought-provoking.
Yeah. Just they know I'm an idiot. They're not contacting me, so.
Yeah, maybe that's why I haven't been probed yet. Damn it.
No, it's because I had all that tinfoil in my butt.
Yeah, I just find a piece of tinfoil and stuffed it right in there.
Just keep it packed.
What am I going to do with? I know.
You know when you tear off a sheet, but it leaves that little corner right
Oh yeah,
at the
dude,
edge?
I got Wrigley's gum foils in there. Fucking
Waste not, want not.
old tinfoil hats that I fucked up on.
The Wrigley's gum thing. That's good. You know when you get done eating your sandwich on your break, you just bloop, down the hatch or up the hatch.
Up the hatch. I just make it into like the biggest square piece I can get just to get some feeling back.
Not me. I hooped that shit, bro. It's that fucking big. Don't be a pussy.
Old Wes Watson's not getting contacted by aliens at all.
Oh, Wuss Twatson?
Old Wes Twatson.
I'm gonna side note on that. Did you see the video of him beating up that guy in the gym?
No.
Yeah, it was some guy went in there. He was plainly looking for trouble, but I guess he had like a mental handicap of some sort. Went up to Wes and was trying to start shit, and Wes started hitting him, and then all of Wes's homies started hitting him. And I really hate saying this. It really feels like entrapment. Like you went up to pick a fight with these guys knowing they were all going to jump in and beat your ass so that you could get them in trouble.
So is Wes Watson back in jail?
I haven't heard anything about it for a few weeks, but
That's tragic.
yeah.
Anyways.
I was going to text you about it, but I didn't want to like filter it into.
So he is getting probed, just not by the aliens.
Well, we know he likes being probed. But yeah, so final question. Do you think disclosure is coming quickly, or is it going to be a much slower process?
I hope that it's going to be done quicker than it has been, but I feel like it's going to be the same song and dance, kind of like testing the waters to see where we're at, like giving information when it leaks already after it's already been out. I'd like to say that yeah, Trump's gonna blow the gates out, but I don't think he is. You?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page, but I feel like we're getting disclosure in a different way, where you actually have people kind of at the forefront, like Sean Ryan, or what's that guy's name? Ross Coulthart from News Nation. He's doing a lot of these interviews with Jake Barber and Brandon Fugel and all these people, like actual journalism into these topics on a pretty huge news platform.
Yeah.
So you have guys like that are bringing these stories into the forefront, or like with Sean Ryan, where he was doing a whole spiel of them there for a minute. He had the one gal, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She was a psychic essentially, or Michael Herrera, that oceanographer, remote viewing people, like people who have these big outlets with these big audiences are bringing attention to these topics, and people are paying attention to it now more so than ever.
Yeah.
Even Joe Rogan, he's playing a big factor in that too, because he's asking hard-hitting questions to the right people.
Yeah.
And not speculating in a way that's just fringe or silly. It's like asking real questions. With Trump, I gotta say I'm being a little bit too optimistic that he's gonna start giving us some pearls. But I also feel like the lightning speed he's moved in 1 week on things that have not been talked about or dealt with for so long is like, what if he does?
Yeah.
What if next week he's like, you know what? Let's just talk about aliens.
And I think that, like, as you were talking about, like, people talking about it more prevalently, much more, out in the open on these bigger platforms, I think that the more people put pressure to have it released, to have, these things, and the more people that are talking about it and asking questions about it, the more that it's in the forefront, the more likely it is to happen. Like, if the people want it, then
100%.
Trump's definitely a person to look to please the peasants.
Even if he
Us
doesn't,
peasants.
even if he doesn't do it for the right reason, doing something good is still doing something good.
Yeah.
But I do like that you have a lot a lot of very credible people coming out, like, you know, Michael Herrera or Jake Barber or whatever, these guys whose record is above reproach come out, risk everything to tell these stories. I mean, especially in terms of military personnel, because for a long time you had Fravor and Grush, and that's like all you really had. All the other voices were either kind of silenced or they didn't talk very loud.
Yeah.
But now you have so many coming out of the woodwork, you know, people with a lot of credibility that you go, I don't know, man, this story seems pretty legit. This guy's telling it, I believe him. You know, that is going to carry a lot more weight than, you know, your average UFO hunter who's like, oh yeah, I saw a light go across the sky, you know.
Got a picture of it.
I got a picture, it's just a little blurry.
Yeah. I'm optimistic that more information is going to come out, and like we, the masses, might be enlightened by it. But I could also see it going badly.
I could too.
Just because there's a lot of fucking weird people that are weird.
I mean,
about small shit.
Yeah. How are we gonna wipe our ass? Yeah. There's aliens in the fucking sky.
Come on, guys, let's fucking think about it. Sock, rag,
a bidet,
some leaves, water. I don't know.
Actually, one more question. Of all the aspects with UAPs, like alien life forms, different species, interdimensional, extra-dimensional, the technology, all the factors with that, which one is the most intriguing to you?
I would say interdimensional is a lot more intriguing for me, because I already have the feeling and thought and knowledge, I will say at this point, to say that there are extraterrestrials in our universe. There's different life forms out there on planets that we can see in the night sky. Like,
yeah,
I definitely believe that. So that's not a huge leap of faith for me to say that yes, there are aliens, as the like belief, you know, our collective belief is right now about aliens. Yes, there are aliens. But like intergalactic beings or dimensional beings, I think is a lot more intriguing to me, just because it is such a mind fuck to think about. Like, there are things and spaces around us that we're unaware of all the time, in every place that we go all the time.
That is mind-boggling. I would have to go with the consciousness aspect of it, because for one, I really want to just disprove the whole simulation theory. I hate to think that we're all just plugged into a computer kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like the idea that we're all connected via consciousness, and that if we learn to accept that as truth and reality, our differences no longer mean a fucking thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what color your skin is versus mine, or economic inequality, or whatever, what you believe about this, what I believe about this, because all of those things would mesh.
Yeah.
Like, you could say you believe in God and I say I don't, but if our consciousness can stream together, I can understand your point of view better than you can articulate, and vice versa.
Right.
And I think that is the most fruitful idea to come out of the whole thing for me.
Yeah. And for me, like, when you mention, like, simulation theory, I think that they're kind of the same thing, just like we talked about before. Like, simulation theory is the consciousness theory being explained in a way that we understand it through computers. Like,
yeah. Well, and I just want to break free of that so much. Like, I can understand
of it, yeah.
Yeah, the vernacular behind it. Maybe it's just because it's too easy to swallow for me, versus the idea of saying, like, consciousness as a whole exists, and it is a simulation, but it's a simulation that we create individually, or you know, some wider, more like introspective version of it than just, thinking about it like the Matrix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I hate that idea so much. Like, that's all we are.
Dope movie, though, the first one.
Fuck, amazing movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. Let's see. We'll stay tuned. Hopefully, Trump is going to be like, aliens are real. That's what happened.
And I just got word from Putin that they've taken Seagal.
They threw him directly into the fucking sun where he belongs. He's still melting. He's a big guy. Probably voted for Kamala. But yeah. I'm glad we talked about this.
Me too.
I'm glad we had time to squeeze this one in.
Yeah.
Because it was heavy on my mind last night.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going down the rabbit holes of like all these other things and then just saw this thing pop up and I was like, I'm watching that.
Yeah.
Got sidetracked for 2 hours watching some alien shit.
Yeah, I knocked out the research on the fire stuff, and all the Steven Seagal stuff was in the back of my mind. So I was going.
I know we're not talking about Steven Seagal, but we are.
It's tertiary.
Were you talking to me about the interesting facts of Steven Seagal thing on TikTok?
I probably mentioned it at some point or another.
Oh yeah. If you haven't watched those, go in there and it's like a 20 episode thing. It's like another interesting fact about Steven Seagal, and I don't know if they're all real, but they're fucking hilarious.
It's like Chuck Norris facts.
Chuck Norris facts, but super not cool.
Yeah. Do you have a good Chuck Norris fact?
I don't offhand. I'm
Okay.
sure you do though.
I do. I'm an encyclopedia for this shit. I'll tell you one and then we'll pull it. Did you know that Chuck Norris was the fourth wise man?
No.
He gave Jesus the greatest gift of all, the gift of the beard. Jesus loved it so much he wore it all the way up until his death. The three wise men were so jealous of Chuck Norris that they decided to omit him from the Bible. All three of them suffered roundhouse kick related deaths. Actually, I'll tell you one more. Did you know on the set of Walker, Texas Ranger, a car hit a deer and the deer died? Chuck Norris brought it back to life using mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The deer got up and started walking. Everybody was in awe. Chuck Norris roundhouse kicked it to death, citing the good Chuck giveth and the good Chuck taketh away.
Chuck Norris over Steven Seagal every day.
100%.
100%.
Good guys wear black.
They do. Well, good guys don't dress like fucking Native American guys being Chinese.
Russian Mongols.
Russian Mongols.
Okay. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.